Hey guys, it's Laura Dabbles here. Sorry that I have been kind of sporadic in my postings. I am sorry about that. At the end of last month, I went to Mobile for my nephew's birthday, and at the end of this month, or beginning of this month, I should say, I went to Yellowstone with a special someone. And that was really fun and cool. But because I've been going out of town, I've been working extra hours when I'm not out of town. So that's taken a little bit of a toll, and certainly has taken a toll on my ability to read quickly. So today we're actually not going to talk about a book. This is actually something that's been bothering me for a long time, and it made the national news last week. I grew up in a domestic violence situation, right? And the reason why I left Mobile to come to Houston was because in my early 20s, I found myself on the receiving end of a violent relationship. Let's just call it what it is. Trigger warning, he tried to kill me. And I have PTSD from that, from my childhood and from that. So there was a period of time in between having left him and between moving here for school that I was staying with my parents, and I was having night terrors like insanely a lot, which is not actually PTSD yet. So here's the thing, you're going to have post-traumatic stress responses after a major trauma. It's only whenever those traumas last, it's only whenever those PTSRs last longer than a year that you begin to have a problem. It's actually normal to have post-traumatic stress responses 6 months to a year after the event. Longer than a year is whenever you start getting into disorder territory and it becomes PTSD. Just to kind of break things down for people, there's not a lot of education out there, I guess you'd say, because I certainly didn't know. Anyway, what has brought me about to tell you this is that there was a woman in Alabama. Her husband was a police officer who shot her in the arm. She lived. They took his gun away, and she moved out. She completely separated, was living somewhere else. And 16 days after they gave him his gun back, because his colleagues at the police station, even though I think he lost his job over it, returned his gun to him. And he went and he finished the job and he killed her 16 days after having had his gun back. This hits very close to home because I'm from Alabama, I'm from Mobile. All of this stuff happened to me there. And yes, my ex put a gun in my face. It was one of his favorite ways to threaten me. It was not until he physically choked me with one of my telephone cords, my charger cords, that I realized that if he's going to choke me with a phone cord, he's going to pull the trigger. And so I got out. This is a generational problem in my family as well. So my father's father beat my father's mother. She fled the relationship for her life and could not take the children with her. He was ex-military. And when my father was 17, she was murdered by her boyfriend. So she never really got out of the cycle of abuse. She just kind of left and found another abusive person. Her murder was written off as a suicide, despite the fact that she was shot behind her left ear, even though she was right-handed. And women don't usually shoot themselves, although there are always outliers. But I don't see myself shooting myself like this if I'm left-handed, right? I mean, if I'm right-handed, why would I do this with my left hand, right? This man's father was the chief of police of that small town that they lived in, and it got covered up, and she's to this day never gotten justice. Her name was Dolores, and I am named Delora after her, but apparently it's really bad juju to name your kids after people who were murdered. So my mom changed the name slightly, and that's why my name is Delora. And I have such an interesting and unique name that People don't always get my name right the first time because they either think it's Laura or Dolores because they've never heard Delora. So their brain kind of fills in what doesn't make sense and makes it something that makes sense. So it's a little awkward sometimes when I introduce myself to people, but I've always loved my name. But anyway, yes. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I wanted to talk about the domestic violence because this man who did what he did to me, right? I was in a vulnerable place. They always choose women who are in a vulnerable place. And they always choose women who are very talented at something, like who have aspirations. Like, even if you're not open about your aspirations, you've got a light inside of you, right? And I never thought that there was anything special about me until I finally got out of my hometown and I got away from all of the bullies, all of the abusers, away from everybody, a complete fresh start, clean slate, where nobody knew who the hell I was. And very quickly, I was realizing that, wow, like, I actually am attractive. And I lost weight because when no one's there to bully you and tell you you're fat, I guess you forget to be fat. And I ended up losing weight gradually. The longer I was away from the toxicity, the more I got to a healthy weight. And I've maintained a very healthy weight despite not going to the gym and not being a crazy fad dieter. And I have thyroid problems. Really, stress can cause all kinds of health problems. Because of my PTSD, I did develop a gluten intolerance because of it. And anytime I start to feel funky or have PTSD-like symptoms, it is always accompanied by stomach problems. I have IBS that is psychosomatic, meaning it's in my head, but it's not in my head, right? Because it's affecting my physical body. A lot of gastrointestinal problems are actually caused by undiagnosed PTSD. So there's a tidbit for you. Something that happened to me that I still can't quite explain. In that interim between staying with my parents before moving to Houston to go to UH, I had the night terrors, the really, really bad night terrors. But eventually got to the point where if I wasn't having a night terror, I was having a very strange dream about spiders. In one of the dreams, I was eating a piece of chocolate. It was like a Lindor truffle, like chocolate in the dream. I always let those just melt in my mouth, right? And in the dream, me and my mom are visiting somebody and we're standing outside their trailer in the darkness. And like, I can hear the cicadas in the dream. And I'm just waiting for this chocolate to melt. And I'm just waiting for my mom to finish talking to this person because women in the South take forever to say goodbye. It's like you're leaving for like half an hour. And so that's what the setting of the dream was. And I get down to the center of the truffle and there's something hard. So I scoop it out of my mouth. I put it in my hand and I'm looking at it in the darkness and its legs unfold and it's a spider. And in real life, I would have flipped my shit. In the dream, I woke up remembering feeling very concerned that I may have harmed the spider, right? Which was very strange. It's like these little innocuous spider dreams were preparing me for the big spider dream that I had. And it was a dream I don't even remember, but I wake up remembering her face and that we'd had a conversation, and I never had night terrors after that. I have all the other symptoms. I've had very vivid flashbacks, not visual, but like emotional flashbacking is, Google it. It's not like what you think in Hollywood, and maybe if I have time, I'll describe it. But anyway, since then, I had not had night terrors. I had all the other symptoms of PTSD, but from then on, I always slept like a baby. And this woman who visited me in my dreams had spider-like features on her face. And I won't go into detail. But she was also, and this was what really struck out to me in the dream, because this was kind of before I got into politics, and this is certainly before I've delved super deeply into the racial injustices of the country, right? I have a brother who's biracial, and I had a lived experience based on that, and picking up on things that weren't right, but I hadn't really gotten into it until after this experience, well after, because I was in college and everyone was talking about it. But in this dream, this was a Black woman with box braids who had spider-like features on her face. And that was what really struck out to me, because I was like, if this was of my own mind, would that image have really popped into my head? And that's whenever I was like, this feels like something bigger than me. This feels like a spirit or a goddess or something. So I Googled it. And you can Google it, because like I started Googling things about Nyet, the weaving and war goddess of ancient Egypt, and all of this other stuff. And then I just Googled, I was like, what offerings do you make to Nyet, or what god offerings do you make to spider goddess? And I found a couple of forums with people who had similar experience to me, although their interpretations of who they saw were different, of course. So one person thought it was Nyet, and they said, I just went through a traumatic experience in my life, and this spider came to me, this spider woman came to me and comforted me in my dreams. And the reason why I also thought perhaps this is Nyet is because the woman I saw was a Black woman. So I thought Egypt, Africa, that stuff. I even looked up things about Anansi and the kind of transformation that happened with Anansi becoming Aunt Nancy. And I've researched a lot of this. And one woman thought it was Grandmother Spider, from the Northern Native American belief, specifically the Navajo, Hopi, Dene area of belief about Grandmother Spider. But there was always this common thread across the forums. People had gone through something like that, a traumatic thing. Some people said domestic violence, some people didn't. Some people just left it as a traumatic event, right? And that's really all that I think that matters. And then they have dreams about Spider that comforts them. Whoever Spider is, or whatever form she comes and comforts them in their dreams. And that was really spooky to me. And that's one of the things that really made me think, like, I had such low self-esteem, because this is going to sound really narcissistic if I just say it, but I had such low self-esteem, I didn't think I mattered. And after reading that these people had this experience the same as mine, I was like, wow, there's someone out here who cares about people. Like, there's something, someone, some being out here who cares deeply about people. And they saw me. And they came and they comforted me. I was seen, right? And comforted. And I'm sorry, this is a little bit emotional. It's one of the reasons why I love that little spider ring that I wear that my mom gave me. She had bought it years back and had never really worn it. And so after I had the spider dream, she was like, you can have it. I told her to hold on to it for a little while, because I knew I wasn't responsible enough to keep up with something like that. And I knew it was special to me already. But when I was ready for it, she gave it to me, and I wear it every day now. I think that when you have a spiritual moment like that as an adult, it's very different from having a spiritual moment as a child, because I apparently spoke to children as a child, and that was something that I was always told. I remember my mom questioning me about it as a kid. Like, I have memories of that. I don't have actual memories of speaking to the spirits, but I know that it happened because everyone in my family talks about it. And my mom took me on house cleansings when she would go and cleanse our relatives' houses or someone's houses. If they had a ghost problem, they always called my mom, and she would drag me along with her, because apparently I was gifted and whatnot. But anyway, so that was really weird, but I didn't really have a connection to it, I felt like, because I didn't remember it. Having this experience as an adult, I was like, maybe there's something bigger I should be doing with my life. And that's whenever I really started delving into spirituality and just wanted to know more about it. I'm really interested in occult philosophy, so I read books on magical traditions. I don't even practice. I practice much more dream interpretation, obviously, because of my experience, trance states, nature, more spirits, less deity, really. I don't really worship any deities. I'm still not sure who Spider is, why she came to me, um, or if this is actually even bigger than just a few posts, if this is a phenomenon that other people have. But I think that there is a trend between that and domestic violence simply because spiders do symbolize female power, you know, feminism. Like the spider literally eats her mate when she doesn't have food, but she's expecting children. She will eat her mate, you know, and that's always been a very badass image, at least in the Western world of symbols. So I think it's curious. I'd like to know other people's opinions on it, but I also just kind of want to raise awareness of like what I've been through, how real this is. No, they didn't take my ex's guns away either. Alabama is very notorious for not doing anything to help domestic violence survivors, not protecting them, not giving them resources, and certainly not even really caring in a lot of instances. I was lucky enough to meet a police officer that cared, and he gave me his card, but shortly thereafter I moved so I didn't have to worry about it because I still didn't feel safe. Even though there was one police officer that was like, you know, call me if he even drives by your house. This is my police officer, you know, radio, whatever, you call and I will come. I still didn't feel safe living there. And that's why I left. And I think that for a lot of domestic violence survivors, sometimes leaving is best. But one of the biggest things that helped me cope after a lifetime of dealing with this kind of abuse and having PTSD from it, the biggest thing that has helped me cope has been my spiritual practice. And I think it's very important in the recovery process. One of the books that I love is Complex PTSD From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. And he talks about how having a higher power and belief in a higher power that loves you, it really does help in the coping process, especially if you feel like you were neglected as a child by your parents. It's kind of like you can bypass not having felt parental love by feeling love from a divine creator, whatever that is to you. And at first, when I first read it, I thought it was bullshit, but now I'm like, now I understand that there's something to it. But yeah, anyway, this video is kind of all over the place. It's a mixture of domestic violence, personal experience, and spirituality, but that's what you get when you ask me anything about my life. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I don't plan on doing this very often, but this was something that I felt like I needed to get out there and put out there because, I don't know, I felt driven to do it. So yeah, please, let's have a conversation in the comment section down below. Be respectful of other people in the comment section down below. And until next time, happy dabbling and bye-bye.